What's up, family? Not all stress is debilitating. Not all stress is debilitating. This is the 10% happier journey. And happy holidays to everybody. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. So, not all stress is debilitating. So today's lesson that I went through is called Stress is Your Ally. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Marcus. What's up, Kevin? Merry Christmas to you. Appreciate you, brothers. So stress is your ally. Okay. One thing I've been appreciating about this journey, this self-care journey, and going through the 10% happier course that I mention every day is that it is framing the concept of stress in a very much more realistic way than I come across in our communities, especially the African American community, where, because of what we've been through, for years we're taught not to really feel our emotions deeply. We're taught, many times not to cry or just tough things out, or certain mental health conditions that we have are just dismissed. Somebody said the other day, they were like, when we say stuff like, yeah, that girl is crazy, or that boy is crazy, or whatever, and really what we're dealing with is our mental health issues that we aren't addressing and that we're taught not to really see as issues. In fact, I was watching, I'll post it to this chat, I was watching an interview with Taraji P. Henson, and she was just talking about her, dealing with anxiety and depression, that kind of thing. So anyway, stress is your ally. So I've been appreciating this journey because they talk about stress in a very much realistic way. And they talk about how it's healthy, for our evolution, and where it becomes unhealthy. As I stated in my last live, I was talking about, the process of what happens when you're in a stressful situation. You have stress hormones that are released. Hey, Stacy. You have stress hormones that are released. You have cortisol that is released. Adrenaline, which is released. A new word, which I learned, norepinephrine, which I never heard before, but that's another hormone that gives you adrenaline and arousal. It's like a backup for actual adrenaline if your adrenal glands aren't working. And so these things work together to be able to give you more energy, to give you more focus in the moment, to help you be alert, to take blood that's in your body, blood and oxygen, and to direct it into the organs and the places that need it the most, and direct it away from the places that in those times of fight or flight need it the least. So all that's working. That's evolution, right? That's why I, in a couple videos ago, if you didn't see it, I challenged a couple notions that we talk about regularly. One was like a particular religious notion where people say God has not given us a spirit of fear. And even though there's a way for you to use that in context, it doesn't realistically talk about fear as a natural and normal and healthy thing. And even people say they're too blessed to be stressed, which I get it. And at the same time, there is a place where we're not looking at it realistically. We're pushing it into black and white territory, which then allows us, as I was talking to a friend about yesterday, not to deal with it realistically. So if we're really dealing with something, we're putting the onus as far as what's going on things that's totally unrelated, or we're having a conversation about these topics we're dealing with in a completely unrelated way than like actual stress and its evolutionary the evolutionary aspect of it. So these things are healthy. They help you when you really need to focus. They help you when you need to be alert, need to have energy, and those kind of things. Where it becomes debilitating, hey, what's up, Isaiah? Thanks for watching. Hey, Vet, thanks for watching. Cuzzo, Steve, thanks for watching. Where it becomes debilitating is, as they were saying in this course, when we're in the concrete jungle and when we don't have anything to be afraid of as far as a life or death situation, but yet we are frozen, or yet we're stressing to the point on a regular basis where it causes long-term harmful effects. That's what we want to avoid. But we don't want to talk about stress like it's not healthy. I want to say it again. We don't want to talk about stress like it's not healthy. There's a healthy level of stress that we actually use to our advantage. Every time you are, if you're a baseball player, every time you're up at bat and that ball is coming 90 miles an hour, it's a certain level of stress that allows you to be focused to hit the ball out of the park if you're a good baseball player. If you're a musician, it's a thing in the moment. And this is funny too, because I've noticed this even in myself. So it doesn't take me long to prepare for, to play something musically at this point, like a whole event where I have a number of songs or, what have you. It doesn't take me a long time. But what I notice is that even if I don't have a lot of time to really practice on the music, when I'm in the moment, my brain is like twice as alert, which means all of a sudden I start like mastering things and memorizing things in the moment on the spot that like I had no idea was even in me. That's because of that stress response. I'm way more alert. I'm paying attention more. My brain is calculating faster. My heart is even beating faster, and the oxygen is flowing to my brain even more. It's a healthy form of stress. Now, if it got to the point where that made me have a nervous breakdown, that's not so healthy. Or if I continued to stress in a situation where it wasn't life or death like that, it would be unhealthy. So that's what we're talking about here. So I took a couple of notes and I'm going to go over them real quick. How's everybody doing? Happy holidays to you. Let me know how your day's going so far. Hope it's going well. If you're a person that celebrates. Okay, note number 1, not all stress is debilitating. Some lower levels help you to perform better, be more aware and alert, and have energy. If you all want to see what I'm reading, it's right at the top of this chat so you can see the notes that I took. And you can be able to, pull from it as well. I think I just, laid into that pretty heavily. Not all stress is debilitating. Some lower levels help you to perform better, be more aware and alert, and have energy. Science shows that changing your mindset about stress can literally change your physiology. So that not all stress is debilitating is a line that this professor in this course, Professor Aduke, I believe her name is, she says she uses that when she's talking to people because it helps them literally in the moment to be able to change around their whole mindset about it, which changes their physiology about it. And, just that one little thing can help us to flip our mindset. So you can literally change your physiology because the truth is all we're talking about is chemical and hormonal reactions. So, as you're looking at something and as you tell yourself that not all stress is debilitating, I call it putting a wedge in between like what you are experiencing and what that reality is like to you and what's right outside of that experience, which could be a totally different reality. Having that wedge allows you to step back, see the difference between what you're experiencing and what's actually happening, to see if those two things are lining up, to see if you actually have a reason to be that stressed because your life is in danger, and not only what you're feeling but what's out there too, outside of just your perception is real. Or if it's the opposite, if you're experiencing something and yes, it's totally real to you, it's totally inside your reality, but yet from another perspective though, maybe nothing's happened at all, or is not that serious, or it could be interpreted in a different way. And so having that wedge allows you to see things for what they are when they are different than what you're seeing or experiencing them in the moment. It's so important. I'm going to keep talking about this in other conversations. But that, if you're stressing about something that you don't need to stress about and you do this little trick, then what happens, of course, is that all of a sudden now all the chemicals in your brain, everything is working differently, so and I love how she said it. She said like, your heart is still beating, the blood is still pumping. The difference is your veins aren't becoming constricted, they're actually becoming whatever the other they're inflated, or it wasn't inflated but it was another word, but they're going the other way. They're opening up more, so the flow is happening. Hey Rodney, Josette, how you doing? Hope y'all having a great day so far. So that bit of a change all of a sudden takes you from being frozen to running a mile, from being frozen to like something that I did the other day after meditation, which was like I was frozen based off of some things I had to do with my taxes and like how much time I had to prepare before that actual meeting. It was like only a couple hours. I didn't have much sleep, and it was like way more than I could, even fathom. And yet when I did this little trick, all of a sudden I went from being in the bed and being debilitated and like not even being able to face it to like flipping around, being up at him, and actually accomplishing it in like less than half the time than I thought. But it was literally just because of this next point, which is thinking about a time where you were stressed and you rose to the occasion is one way to reverse your body's response, allowing you to turn debilitating stress into energy to succeed, and that's what happened to me in that moment. That's what's possible, when you have this, when you look at this thing realistically. And this is why I say we cannot keep looking at the concept of stress or fear as something that's like everything from like something we're not supposed to experience to something that is evil or demonic or not of a higher spiritual path or enlightenment. That's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Bullshit. Like, it's actually where we need to understand the healthiness of it and who we are, so that we can understand its place, and then we'll be able to put it in its place better. But like dealing with it the other way allows us to be totally naive of very real things that we experience on a day-to-day basis, because we're not dealing with the topic properly, And I don't care if you read it in a Bible, in a Quran, I don't care where you read it. We're not dealing with it properly. The truth and to why those particular principles or scriptures and all that kind of stuff is that way is because that was when we were younger in our evolution as human beings. So that was the best we understood about fear and stress and dealing with different mental states and all that. We didn't understand it, y'all. It's not that these are, anyway, I'm not gonna go into that, but that is real though. That is real. I just don't want to make this a religious conversation because I want to stay on this topic. But it's important in our community, especially the demographic of African American, because I was telling somebody yesterday, in fact this is relevant, so specific to the African American community, we went through slavery, we went through a number of things that allowed us, like what happened was, when dealing with stress, we learned certain coping mechanisms where we didn't have the resources that we have today around. We didn't have doctors, we didn't have different therapeutic programs. We weren't as keen on like meditation in certain regard. Like, it was just a bunch of things that we didn't know. So what did we relate to? We related to different kind of things that were a part of our traditions and our spiritual past or what have you. But these were things that didn't have anything to do with really dealing with stress properly. It was just an escape. When you're looking at the by and by, that's an escape. But that's understandable if you're in a dire situation where there is no escape and you really, like, that's it. That's your life. Like, I empathize deeply. But we're at a different place now. And what I realized has happened, or at least, I would say what I realize has happened, even though it's my opinion, I really believe it's true, is that, evolution is any species that survives, any species that evolves and is still present today, learn survival techniques and adaptations to be able to adapt to the environment. Those are adaptations that don't fall on the side of like things that we would define as good or bad or evil, or good or evil, those kind of things. It's just whatever needs to survive. But what happens is, after you survive a certain thing, if it's not present in the world anymore, then you still have a particular trait and a particular type of characteristic that's not conducive to the environment you're in. I recognized at one time in a relationship that I was in where myself and my partner, we had some kind of like pre-programmed responses that were like, debilitating, or they weren't helpful for our communication and our relationship. But one day I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I realized what's going on. These were survival tactics that we needed in our previous relationships to be able to even just survive, to be able to like feel heard, to be able to like express ourselves. Like we needed these. Now they're of no use anymore, but these are so programmed now. So that's how our responses to stress and fear are, or our coping mechanisms, not stress or fear itself. It's so important that we talk about this. Our responses and our perceptions of how to deal with stress and fear and what categories to put it in and how to deal with it in what I would consider a black and white fashion is the issue, not fear and stress itself. And the more we tell ourselves that fear is not something that we're supposed to experience, and if we are, then we're not in the right mindset, or that stress is something that is completely just we're not supposed to experience, and if we are, something's terribly wrong, the more we deal with these things in the wrong way, and the real issues that we have, because everything has its pros and cons, the real issues that we have, we don't actually know how to diagnose them and how to work with them properly. So, I've been studying psychology indirectly now for years, and it's something that I realize now as I speak. And it's what made me realize these kind of things. So anyway, y'all, I'm sorry, I'm going way in, but this is what it is. So thinking about a time where you were stressed and rose to the occasion is one way to reverse your body's response, allowing you to turn debilitating stress into energy and succeed. Feeling stress is a sign that you care about something. And I like this because when you shift it into that perspective, then you can have more empathy for yourself and you can be more gentle with yourself, which allows you to then de-escalate, de-stress actually. So when you are experiencing stress, ask yourself the following questions. First of all, what am I stressed about? I think that's the easiest one that all of us can, look at. What am I stressed about? The second part, which I really find helpful, why do I care? When you think about why you care, like if you're stressing about, just say, all right, if I take myself and I'm stressing about, say, like finances, right? And I'm like, why do I care? Well, of course I need to take care of myself, but it's also because I'm thinking about, like, security is very important to me, and I'm thinking about, like, what I want to do for my future. Like, I go all the way to the end of the road. What I care about most is generational wealth for myself and my family. What I care about most is being able to be secure in myself so I can live a certain quality of life and also be able to help do the same for the others that are around me that I love and care about. That will help me in a moment when I'm stressed, because that's actually a good thing. Those are really positive thoughts. And so I can de-escalate, just using that kind of thing. So try that. That's something I'm going to be putting into play every time I experience it. Because you start noticing that your stress is actually coming from a place, most of the time, of wanting good, wanting something positive or good, and just not being in control of it. All right, last two, and then we're out of here. Is there an opportunity inherently in this? And I like that because I'm always looking for opportunities to turn, as my dear friend Coco Lorraine Vera would say, to turn pain into power. I'm always looking for ways to do that. So if I can find an opportunity or even see a glimpse of an opportunity in something, it allows me to allows me to detach from just what I'm experiencing, but not forsake it, not throw it away like it's not happening, and then be able to see, is there an opportunity in this for me to be successful, or for me to learn something, for me to practice something. I like practicing patience. I'm weird in that way. I will literally talk to people on the phone sometimes, and this is from my caring perspective, and I'm always pushing my level of patience. If I'm talking to someone, it's not a good conversation, or it's like nobody else wants to talk to them, And I actually like doing that because it allows me to, first of all, be there for that person and to push my levels of patience and of tolerance or empathy, in that regard. The next one is, remember your first line of defense against stress is taking a deep breath. And that was something that was my particular, this is just what I felt in looking at this. This didn't come from the session. This was just I realized that the most powerful thing you have is the ability to take a deep breath. And it's so interesting because I didn't realize for the longest time that as we're going throughout our day, just even speaking for myself, but I know you can probably relate, going throughout my day, when I'm going hustle and bustle, and if I'm stressed, or if I'm just anxious, like if I'm just like I'm energized and I'm on edge or whatever, I'm like I'm not breathing deeply a lot of times. It's really shallow breaths, and the first key to being able to detach and begin the process of de-escalating is taking a deep breath. That allows your body to relax. It starts to get the blood flowing to your brain. It literally just de-escalates you, and is the first step to being able to step back and do all these other steps. So that's kind of where we end. That's where I'll end on this. I think it's a good place to end. Taking a deep breath. Start and end by taking a deep breath. Donnie's, Merry Christmas. I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Same to you and yours. Hey, Jan. Hey, Michael, Anthony, Orr, Shannon, Andre, thanks for watching. Dennis Ferguson, what's up? Family. So I hope everybody is well. That is the message for today. If you disagree with anything I'm saying, please drop a line. Let's dialogue about this. I'm grateful that I always have something to say as I'm learning from people's feedback that makes them think, that gives them some kind of insightful thought or whatever. Like, I'm so appreciative of it. And if you disagree, speak up. Especially on the stuff I talk about when it comes to religion or spirituality, because it's just, it's these topics are so important to our day to day. And even though it may seem like they don't affect our day to day, I've really studied to the point of realizing they do. And that's why I come to the place where I am, especially as far as secular humanism. Because for me, what it does is it takes all the golden rules, all the stuff that's either common sense or it's demonstrable, we can attest to, and it gets rid of all of the stuff that is not helpful. It's obsolete. It's we look at it in a very biased way because of the other things theologically that's attached to it and all these other kind of things, So that's for me. I still appreciate and accept everybody else's path, no matter what it is, and support. But I do support people having healthier habits and healthier mindsets. And if that means that in the midst of the gold, in the midst of the treasures of the positive ideas, there's one super toxic idea that we can't see as toxic because it's surrounded by all these other holy and these polished things and these esoteric, we need to get that shit out of there, bottom line. And we need to talk about it because we're already doing it at this point. Everybody who studies and follows any path is cherry picking. Welcome, cherry pickers, and I'm saying myself included. We're all cherry pickers. We acknowledge certain things that make sense to us and make sense with the times, and we completely disregard things that don't. It's just that many of us kind of, don't realize why we do that, or think that the justification has something to do with either something theological or it's past our understanding. It's not. We just don't know how to be honest when it comes to these things because we've been taught that you either take things hook, line, and sinker, or you're you don't have faith, or you're not a believer, or these things. Meanwhile, that's exactly what we do to make it practical. It's so wild to me, but I do understand it. It's psychology. It's how we adapt. It's the way that we process things so that we can sleep at night and still feel like we're living morally positive lives. So it's all good, my people. Let's just talk about it, though. All right, so I'm out of here. I hope y'all have a wonderful day today. Check out the notes above where I put everything that I listed or talked about is right there in those notes. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Drop me a line and look out for the word of the day. I'm probably going to do that in a few minutes. Peace. Be well, y'all.